to this edition of PMAT Live. This edition is all about the creaming method, which is probably the most prevalent method of mixing a cake that I can think of. It's not the only method, but it's definitely the one that I have seen, at least in American style cakes, being used the most. So I figured it would be a fun thing to put a cake together using the creaming method. So if you happen to just run across a long list of ingredients that sound cake-ish, then you'll be able to put it together using the creaming method without even having the rules written down for you. To get started, I'm just going to get my little mixer together here. Okay, the most important thing to remember when talking about the creaming method is you want to have all of your ingredients at a cool room temperature. You want to make sure that your butter is what we call plastic, which means able to expand to hold air bubbles. The whole idea with the creaming method is that you make a ton of bubbles by mixing sugar and butter together, and the little crystals of sugar cut a bajillion little holes into the butter, and those holes can't be empty because, you know, we don't really have a vacuum in our mixing bowl, so those holes, of course, fill up with air. Then, when you put the leavening, which in this case is baking powder and a little bit of baking soda, into the mix, and then throw everybody into the oven, the combination of all those bajillion little air bubbles expanding in the heat with the added help of some carbon dioxide bubbles from your leaveners, your chemical leaveners, your bubbles are going to expand and you're going to get a nice rise. Alrighty, so our butter is all in the mixer. At this point, I'm going to add in the sugar. I have 20 ounces of sugar. I'm adding that to 3 sticks of unsalted butter. And then this is the most crucial step, because this is where you end up with all of your bubbles. After about 5 minutes of creaming, what you have is a mixture that is very light and fluffy. The butter has lightened in color. It's definitely closer to white than to yellow now. And very easy to scrape the sides of the bowl because the texture is very light. The next step is to add the eggs one at a time. The question is, why one at a time? Well, you want to do it one at a time. You want to do it slowly so you can keep an emulsion going. Right now what we have in here is sugar and butter. The sugar is also drawing some water to it, so you've basically got a mixture, a homogenized mixture of fat and water with a bunch of sugar in it. So in order to keep that water and fat from separating out, you want to add eggs, which is just more water and more fat along with protein. You want to add them one at a time, beat them in to maintain that light, fluffy texture. One at a time. I'm going to scrape one last time and then give it one more mix just to make sure there isn't any weird egg goo stuck up on the side. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is add my seasonings, which in this case is a slightly rounded teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of really good vanilla extract. If I'm going to make a vanilla pound cake, I want to use the best vanilla that I can. Why am I putting it in now? Why am I not putting it in with my dairy? Well, because fat is such an excellent carrier of flavor, what better way to make my cake taste really vanilla-y than to mix it in when there's pretty much only fat in the bowl. Okay, so far we have creamed the butter by itself, cream the butter and sugar together until it's light and fluffy. Add your eggs one at a time. Add your seasonings next. Always use salt, please, 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 otherwise you'll have a very boring pound cake. You don't have to use quite as much as I do, but at least use a half a teaspoon. It really will make it taste better. Now if I want to make cinnamon pound cake, well, I'm just going to throw some cinnamon in along with my salt. If I want to make an orange pound cake, I'm going to throw in a whole bunch of orange zest with maybe a little bit of orange extract. So please just take this as a template and use it for any flavor of pound cake that you would like to make. Okay, so the next step is going to be adding dry and wet ingredients alternately. And what I have here is 13 ounces of cake flour. I have 1 teaspoon of baking powder and about a heavy pinch, not quite a quarter of a teaspoon of baking soda. So in goes roughly half. I'm not going to be so anal retentive as to measure that because, you know, come on. Okay, and then on low speed so it doesn't poof out all over you. The next step is the dairy. In this particular case, I have a total of 1 1/4 cups of dairy. You can make this up from any kind of liquidy dairy-ish type stuff that you want to do. Like I said, you can use whole milk. This is half and half, and sour cream. It doesn't really matter how much of one or the other, just as long as you have 10 ounces or a cup and a quarter when you're done. So in goes roughly half of that. Stir that in just until mixed up. If you look at this, we're still dealing with a very, very thick, luscious batter. And we maintained our emulsion through the entire process. So real quickly, to recap the steps of the creaming method, first thing you're going to do is cream your fat. Whether it's butter or shortening or some of each, cream the fat. Add the sugar, whether it's white sugar, brown sugar, turbinado sugar, whatever kind of sugar you're using, cream that together with the fat. Add your eggs one at a time, mixing really thoroughly in between each addition to keep that emulsion. Then add your flavorings, whatever they might be. Okay, after that you're going to go gradually alternating your dry ingredients, which is going to be your flour, and your leavening, whether it's baking powder, baking soda, or a mixture of both, and your other liquid, which is most of the time going to be dairy of some form or another. That doesn't mean you can't use almond milk. That doesn't mean that you can't use soy milk. So please don't limit yourself to just things that come from a cow. So thank you for watching. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.